Will Brent crude be the trade of the week? All eyes on CPI and inflation data, and are we about to see a crypto comeback coming up right now? Good morning and welcome on this beautiful Monday, the 12th of September. Guys, if you were with us last week, drop a massive like and share. We had a huge trading week. Guys, I'm your host, Dane van der Mast, and this is Pounds for Breakfast. We're about to have a ton of fun. Now, before we jump in, as always, make sure you like and subscribe. You stay tuned to every brand new upload and live broadcast. We will be trading live this afternoon at 3:30 GMT +2. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure you drop into the Telegram link down below, get into the groups, and if you don't already have a G360 live account, make sure you follow the link. There's a chat bot. The team can assist you within 15 minutes to get live and trading with us right here, right now. So without further ado, let's jump straight in and let's have a look at what is happening this week. And we're going to start with the news. So let's get it started. So first and foremost, guys, we don't have a ton on the local front, but I will be sharing an article that analysts are looking very specifically at the rand and what is happening in our local climate. And there's a lot more detail there that you can obviously go through and pull apart. So I will be sharing that link down below. Now, in terms of US news, we're going to be hearing this a bunch over the course of this week. And the world right now is all talking about inflation, right? What sort of data are we going to see? Now, we are going to get some very interesting numbers out this week, and we're going to be focusing on CPI data, which is consumer price index, as well as PPI data. Now, why is this important, right? In terms of inflation, right, paying more and more, things becoming more expensive, the best metric in order to measure this is consumer price index, right? What are the price of things? Now, we have two. We have normal CPI, and then we have core CPI. And core CPI removes two of the most volatile numbers, and that is food and energy, which mostly contribute to these massive fluctuations. So I'm going to go through economic calendar in a second, but these figures are going to be key. Is inflation coming down, and how will this affect the Federal Reserve's decision to raise interest rates? We know there's going to be a raise. Are we going to see a 50 or 75 basis points? How aggressive is that going to be, and what will that look like for currency as well as Wall Street in general? So we will go through that in quite a bit of detail. Now, looking at Europe, the same thing applies. Everybody right now is looking at how to fight the energy crisis in terms of rising energy prices, as well as, how do they curb inflation? And basically the world is preparing and trying to attempt a version of a soft landing. And I will be sharing this article in terms of how Truss is planning to essentially put plans in place, and these come down to energy caps and a whole bunch of other items to lessen the load on the end consumer and thus reducing those types of inflation numbers. Okay, so very interesting stuff that we are going to dive into. Just quickly touching on the S&P 500 or indices for market close on Friday, and we generally saw a massive uptick across the board, and we're going to have a look at what that's going to look like this week, both for indices as well as commodities, Forex, so on and so forth. Now, quickly just touching on the economic calendar, we have a fairly big day today, and that's going to be mostly faced around the pound. So we're going to get some GDP data coming in this morning, but other than that, we have Asian holidays. So if you're looking at the yen, if you're looking at the won, then obviously just pay attention to that. The Asian markets will not be contributing towards that data, towards those market moves. So there may be some really good opportunities there. We will pay close attention to that. But moving into Tuesday, and this is where the CPI data is really going to play a big part. And what we're looking at is that CPI data for August, right? How that compares from a yearly basis, but really looking at, has there been a tick down in the data from August? And this is going to be very closely watched. So when this data comes out, this is going to come out tomorrow, which is Tuesday, the 13th of September at 2:30 in the afternoon. This data is going to rock the markets, right? We're going to see massive volatility on the dollar, and I might be starting an earlier broadcast just to cover the fundamental data tomorrow at 2:30. So if you want to be a part of that, as always, make sure you stick around, hit that like and subscribe button, so when I go live, you are notified and you are the first one to be aware and obviously jump in there with us. All right. So just continuing in terms of some of the fundamentals as what we're going to be seeing for the rest of the week, we have CPI data coming in on Wednesday, producers price index that will also come out on Wednesday. That's for the dollar. Thursday is where we're going to see some retail sales data, and this further lends towards CPI, right? How well are retail sales doing? And specifically, we're going to be focusing on, August, and that's going to be core as well as retail. So Thursday is a fairly big day, and not too much happening on Friday. We got some CPI data looking at the European markets. So without further ado, let's just jump straight in. I'm going to use a little bit more of our timeline for analysis because I have some very interesting things that I would like to show you, and we're going to have some amazing opportunities, as well as what I think is going to be the trade of the week. So you want to stick around and stay tuned for that. If you're a commodities trader, and if you're not a commodities trader, I want to talk about a very interesting subject as well as an opportunity we're going to potentially be able to capitalize on this week. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the analysis and have a look at what is busy happening in the markets today. Okay, starting up first and foremost, we're going to be jumping into the dollar index, and we're really paying close attention to, what sort of moves we've seen over the course of the last week and how that potentially play out for us this week. And this applies to all markets because the dollar moves, we know pretty much everything else follows. So as we saw last week, and this is currently looking at a daily time frame, we can see that pullback that came off the back of that divergence that I was obviously busy speaking about. We can see that slight reversal, dollar lost a little bit of footing, and this is obviously looking at a daily. So overall for the last week, we saw that footing pullback, but we do have a decent level of support here, and the next move I think is going to be highly controlled or dominated, specifically looking at that data that we're going to see coming out tomorrow. Now, looking at Euro GBP and as well as Euro USD, we're going to be focusing on the Euro for these two. This is currently Euro GBP. And as we discussed last week and as we discussed on Friday, we've seen beautiful price action. We've bounced to that 50 fib level. We've got a ton of momentum towards the top side. Now, looking at Euro USD, we see a very similar type of structure. And so we can see here, in this particular case, the euro is the dominating factor. We're seeing a ton of positive movement from the euro. And as we just saw from the dollar index, that's certainly a correlation. So Euro USD as well as Euro GBP potential longs for this week is what we want to pay a little bit more attention to. Now, moving into indices, for those of you who love your indices, US 30, otherwise Dow Jones, NASDAQ, as well as German 30, we are seeing beautiful price action, as we obviously also discussed last week. So just quickly focusing on the fib levels that we're busy looking at, we saw a punch through in the course of Friday that really took markets to that 38.2, through the 38.2, sorry, and we're currently busy bouncing and sitting at that level right now. So in terms of momentum, just taking a zoom quickly in, and this is looking at a hourly time frame, we can see that pretty much from the 7th, we've had this massive momentum looking at US 30. Now, is it going to slow down, or are we going to see that push up above that 38.2? So obviously, if you want to be a part of that and you want to come and see that happening live, then obviously make sure you join us this afternoon at 3:30. We will be going live on that. Now, we're seeing a very, very similar structure across the board. If we look at US 30, we're seeing a very similar thing on NASDAQ, as well as a very similar thing on German 30. So indices are positioned to make the next run. Now, whether we see a bounce off of immediate resistance being our local fib levels, or we see a continuation, is where we'll dive deeper at the open of the US markets this afternoon. Now, for those of you who've also requested S&P 500, S&P 500 is giving us some beautiful price action over where we can really see where that breakout may end up being. So we've got a beautiful clean resistance level, and S&P 500 is currently tracking higher, right? As we saw on the heat index, we saw a massive day in the green. And should we continue to see a few more days in the green, should we continue to see, Federal Reserve making edges towards growth and what the markets want to see, then I believe the S&P 500 break might trigger an overall indices rally. So I definitely want us to pay a little bit more attention to the S&P 500, and definitely a break of this diagonal resistance. And obviously we want to break that last high. So we want S&P to peak that $4,300 mark. So 4320 on the dot is where we'd want to peak. And then we're going to start to look at longs on items like S&P 500, as well as all other indexes. Now, commodities, for those of you who are loving and enjoying your commodities, I have something very, very interesting that I want to talk about. But in essence, we pretty much have gold sitting pretty as per our analysis last week. And gold is really sitting in a current position of indecision, right? We're sitting on support. We're seeing a weakening dollar, which generally would encourage a higher gold price, but gold is not certain, right? Gold is certainly not showing its hand in terms of what it wants to do, as we discussed last week, and I'll link Friday's analysis up here right in the corner here. But ultimately, we're sitting on that 61.8, that golden retracement ratio, and a break of the structure as well, that 50 fib level, is definitely where we want to be. Now, if you're not already part of the Telegrams group, you want to jump in. I will be sharing, just before we go live on the US session, I will be sharing all of my chart templates, meaning you can download them, you can apply them on your PC only, and you can see exactly what I see. So as we go through the markets and as markets move, you can see pip for pip what is happening with me live in real time. Now, what I'm more excited about and what I've sort of been dying to share this morning is Brent, right? Brent crude, as we discussed last week, made that poke down below that 61.8. And as I said, I do believe it's a false move towards the downside. That 61.8 is a beautiful support level, and that poke below the 61.8, I said, could very well be a bear trap. Now, as we can see on Brent crude, Brent has recovered beautifully back up above that 61.8, and we now have a really good market structure to get long, right? So Brent is definitely on my hot list for what could be one of the biggest trades of this week. Now, I'm going to be speaking about crypto in a second, but I really want to speak about something a little bit more important right now. And that is the beauty of being able to diversify and trade the FX markets. Now, some of the wealthiest people in the world don't buy the brands, they buy into the brands. And I want to show you an example. If we have a look at something like Brent crude, right? The price of oil has a knock-on effect on almost every single industry. And that is why core CPI is measured without energy, without oil, because it is such a massive contributor towards inflation. It's a massive contribution towards fluctuating prices, and the knock-on effect happens down to the end user, to every single one of us. Now, how does smart money work? What does smart money do? Does smart money sit back and just watch the prices of things fluctuate? No. Smart money, either hedges, right, their costs against something getting higher or lower by investing in a commodity, the assets, the markets in whole. But just talking about Brent crude as an end consumer, if we consider the fact that if you had to fill up your car tank, let's say every single week, and you're, filling a tank of fuel every week, and that is about 1,500 Rand, in the space of a year, right, you would spend on average about 72,000 Rand just on fuel, just as an example, right? Now you're a consumer of that asset that contributes towards pricing. Now, there's a bit of a mind shift I want to take you on, and I want you just to bear with me for this one because we're using some crypto analysis time to talk about this. But ultimately, if you were an investor, if you were sitting and looking at the price of crude, if we just look at the price of crude that moved in the last half a month, right, from the end of August to where we're currently sitting now, which is less than 2 weeks, if you had a 5-lot short, right, on the price of crude oil, 5 lots would have resulted in a take profit. And this is the beauty of CFD trading, contracts for difference with leverage. Yes, extremely risky, but if done right, the risk to reward ratio can be massive. A 5-lot position just in 2 weeks would have resulted in a 1.4 million Rand trade. Even if that was a 1-lot position, that would have been 140,000 Rand. Now, if the average person is spending 72,000 Rand a month on fuel, in the space of 2 weeks, you could have made double your fuel cost sitting in the markets and speculating. So what am I saying? Am I saying jump into? No, of course not, right? This is for educational purposes, and I'd never tell you where to put your money. But ultimately, I'm trying to help you understand a mind shift in how smart money works, right? If you bought Tesla stock at the point where Tesla launched, as opposed to buying the actual vehicle, you would have a couple $1 million right now. But if you bought that vehicle, you'd be sitting with a depreciated asset. So just something to think about and food for thought. But ultimately, Brent crude may very, very well be the trade of the week. Now, moving into Bitcoin really quickly. Is crypto about to break out? We need to wait and see. Crypto and Bitcoin is currently sitting at that 78.6 market low. And as of this time of recording, we're seeing a potential test of that resistance level that we've been discussing last week. Again, video and link to that video just listed above. So are we going to see that breakout in crypto? And would a breakout signal a buy? Right? In my personal opinion, no. A slight push above resistance does not signal a buy, because we very well might move into a range, and you don't want to be caught into a range. We want confirmation that that range or that grab, that market move has come to an end, and we are in the next leg of a change in market state. So we want to be in the next bull run. Inversely, a break below support doesn't necessarily signal a sell, but a break and a hold below support would then push us down to that 88.2, as I discussed, that $13,000 to a coin level. So is crypto about to come back? I don't know. Leave a comment down below. If you are a crypto trader, what are some of your favorite coins and what are you trading around about now? I would love to know and hear your feedback. So there's going to be a ton of opportunities this week. I will be live multiple times throughout the week. We're going to be releasing some special broadcasts and features covering some very exciting topics. But let me know down below in the comments, what would you like to see? What interests you? What are you trading right now? And what's your thoughts? And is there any interesting analysis you would like us to cover? As always, you can leave that down below. We read every comment, we observe, and we implement to make every single one of our broadcasts so much better. Guys, if you're not already a Globex 360 client, link to the description down below. In business hours, within the next 15 minutes, we'll be able to help you open up a live account, get set up, and be in a position to come and trade the financial markets with us. There's never been a better time to be a trader. As always, have a safe day and do things the Globex 360 way. Bye.